Good morning, everybody. Hello, family, old friends, new friends. This is great to see the summer learning community expand. I cannot tell you how good it feels to talk about summer this morning. After the beatdown we've gotten from Old Man Winter, it is surprisingly hopeful to talk about summer. It inspires an intense amount of joy to be talking about summer right now, given the beatdown that we've gotten. But Chris said the weather will follow the planning. You know, part of the reason that I have a lot of hope for the summer and that there's a lot of joy is not just because I'm feeling a post-traumatic stress reaction, but really because there's a lot of effort that we've put into building a summer learning system that is bearing fruit right now. A lot of effort has gone into building Boston's summer learning community, and we've done it in a relatively short time with a lot of success. And so today we want to talk about some of that success and how we build on the success going forward. Before I get into those remarks, I should have started with the proper protocol and bring you greetings on behalf of the mayor, Martin J. Walsh, to start there. He would have loved to have been here today. But as you know, we've got 4 public candidates for the superintendency of Boston Public Schools, and he will be very involved over the course of the week in making sure that the public is able to see those candidates. He wants to see them in the light of day. It's going to be a very exciting time in the city this week and going forward. So let's jump back quickly to summer, because the success that we've seen has been validated from a number of angles and perspectives, not the least of which is the research that Rahn has done for us in collaboration with the Wallace Foundation. The first report that you'll see really is one in a series of reports that you'll see in coming summers about the effect of year-over-year rigorous summer learning on student outcomes, summer learning loss, and school performance. I don't want to steal a lot of Jennifer Sloan Combs' thunder here by revealing the results, because she's going to take us through a lot of the findings in detail, but I do want to make sure that I call out a few things that were really important to me as I review the results, and that I think we should think about how we continue to build on as a community. First of all, Boston is one of 2 sites that really led the pack of research cities in terms of attendance. So this means that we have actually built a set of learning experiences that young people want. They want to be a part of what we're doing, and what we're doing works for families. Secondly, Boston, like many of our peer cities, was able to help students produce significant math gains in summer. At least by this measure, we are able to make sure that we're returning young people back to school in the fall prepared for the year ahead. Boston, unlike many of our peers, did see a lot of movement on social emotional measures, as was our intent. Now, while this did not rise to the level of statistical significance, we do, and Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, probably see the only discernible results in this area of the city's study. This is huge. This speaks to Boston's commitment to whole child development and well-rounded learning, and it's something that we should continue to play a leadership role on. What cannot be overlooked in this work is how we've done what we've done. Our methods are somewhat unique when compared to the other cities in the Rahn study. First of all, we relied on school and community partnerships to design the learning experience at the site level and to integrate instruction and enrichment to the degrees possible. We've been as concerned about skill development and social emotional growth as we have been about academic attainment during the summer. We've developed a co-training model where we are getting teachers and community-based organizations in the room together and thinking about the ways that adults best learn and best work together to the benefit of young people. We're also operating in both school and community settings, really purposely thinking about how you bring the whole city to life for the purposes of learning. And lastly, we've made a commitment to one another to share data and look at the same data and be involved in a communal process of continuous improvement. The features that I just mentioned really uphold a vision that probably started about 2010 or so, when a lot of leaders from around the city, BPS, our community partners, the funding community in Boston After School and Beyond, got in the room together over a series of conversations and asked the question, what would a learning system look like? What would a system look like that starts to break down the barriers between school and out of school time? What would a system look like that looks more comprehensively at the strengths and weaknesses of young people and is responsive to those things? And what would a system look like that shares learning and data across settings? So the convergence of shared vision and shared urgency really did lead us to summer first, because it was a time of the year that nobody owned in particular, where collaboration could really grow and fester in some very positive ways. And so we began with 5 schools, 7 community partners, and working with 232 students. And I think some of you are in the room who began that journey for us. And if you are, raise your hands, because I'm going to clap for you. I'll see you back there, Jonathan. Put them up high. All right. So thank you for your intrepid leadership on that. If we flash forward to the summer of 2014, we've evolved from what was in 2010 a summer learning pilot to a summer learning community. There's a lot of pride to be taken in that. The partnerships between Boston Public Schools, Boston After School and Beyond, community partners, and the opportunity agenda includes 30 organizations operating 58 total sites and serving about 3,500 students. That's a few more than that 232 back in 2010. And these efforts reached at least 50 Boston Public Schools. And so we've gotten scale, and scale is one measure, I think, of the success that we've achieved. As is the coherence of the work that we're doing. I want to take a few minutes, if you'll bear with me, to talk about some other measures of success and hallmarks of the summer community success, because Jennifer is going to let us know how great we are. And she's going to challenge us because the work is not done, and I'll talk about that as well. But I want to make sure that we understand some other milestones and accomplishments we've hit along the way. Chris referred to the ACT framework. Many of you are familiar with it: achieving, connecting, and thriving. And so the framework, as you know, describes a set of skills and outcomes that we believe, and much research has shown, contribute to whole child development and well-rounded learning. Now, many frameworks exist. ACT is one of them. ACT draws on some of these frameworks. And the measure of our success is not so much in having created the ACT framework or synthesized the ACT framework, but the success is really in the development and norming of a common language for ourselves that allows schools and OST providers to really best describe what they bring to the learning enterprise, and to be able to negotiate, talk across those learning settings to figure out what the collaborative efforts of schools and out-of-school time providers will be to promote whole child learning. It really gives us a way to move beyond conversations that talk about school, out-of-school time in fractured or fractious ways, but to really think more cohesively about this learning system that has been our goal for a long time. The ACT framework has also prompted some paradigm shifting and pushing our collective thinking beyond education and enrichment to learning. I often like to steal some language that the Rennie Center uses when they talk about going from schooling to learning, because this is really about what full engagement in development looks like, no matter what the time of day or no matter what the community space is. And so we've moved to a place, I think, where we recognize that you can't separate the heart and the head in our education and development efforts, but it's both simultaneously at all times of day wherever learning takes place. And so what ACT has done for us is helped us to build mutual accountability across education settings, integrate academic and youth development toolboxes, connect the program dots, particularly through building cross-organizational capacity and shared tools. And we've also figured out how to develop some co-management strategies between public entities like the Boston Public School System and quasi-private and nonprofit entities like Boston After School and Beyond. The shared governance makes a difference. We play to our strengths when we collaborate in that way, and it contributes to the systems building that we're looking for. The ACT framework, and here's another hallmark of our success, I think, has spurred some important R&D work in data sharing and data development. In partnership with the National Institute for Out of School Time, we are more consistently assessing program quality, student satisfaction, and student outcomes on non-academic measures than we ever have. And we can see this now across several organizations. Add to that the work of the Parent Institute at Harvard, which is helping us to see young people's social emotional strengths and weaknesses, then we start to get a picture of the whole child, and we can respond accordingly both to strengths and needs. The data have really helped us to define and align in some ways the work that we're doing. Part of the success that we've achieved can be gauged by the shared understanding, the shared practice, and the shared identity that derives from this work. And because of our investment in shared data, we can declare that we've successfully built the basic architecture for a citywide learning system. A final way that we can gauge our success is by the influence that summer learning is having on the school year. And I want to underscore the importance of this because in 2010, when we had the conversation about a citywide learning system, summer was the obvious place to start, but our goal was really to think about how do we innovate and transform the school year and move to a system of year-round learning. And so BPS has undertaken a number of changes, and Melissa Partridge here is to thank both for her leadership inside the district and at the summer learning table to move a lot of that forward. First of all, the district realigned its formative assessment schedule for us, something that really did not have to happen, but after the first couple of years of this work, we said based on the data that we have, and when the district looks at student formative results in February and then again in September, this isn't a good way for us to look at summer and kind of narrow summer. So they readjusted so that we're looking at an assessment in May and now an assessment in September. Jennifer will tell you, we have not cracked the code on figuring out how to best measure summer learning loss, but we've better positioned ourselves through this shift in the data collection to better isolate summer, and that has been important. BPS is also using a lot of the program quality and student satisfaction measures that we've innovated in summer. Many of the Title I partners that serve BPS schools now have to report these data so that we can see not only what they're doing in summer, because many of them are summer partners, but what does the effectiveness of their work look like on a day-to-day basis in their school year partnerships. My hope is that the lessons that we're taking from these efforts, coupled with your growing knowledge about what works and what you're innovating, will help us shape the district's extended learning time strategy. And so many of you know that in a recent agreement between BPS and the Boston Teachers Union, we are adding 40 minutes to the school day for 60 schools over the next 3 years. It will begin with about 15 schools this year. The good thing is that the people in this room know a whole lot about what expanded learning looks like, what blended and integrated learning looks like, and we need to bring that knowledge to bear on how schools will use the time that they've now been afforded. It's not just putting 5 more minutes on the back of a class period. It's not just putting the 40 minutes on the end of the day and doing the same thing. It's really thinking about how do we leverage what we've learned the whole day, expound on it, and let students experience it in some different ways. Nobody knows how to do this better, I think, than our summer learning community. So what this all really adds up to is concrete evidence of Boston's ability to open doors throughout our communities to learning, and to do so in a way that brings the best of school and community to bear on learning. To do so in a way that challenges young people and engages young people to bring their full selves to the learning enterprise. It's also proof that we as adults, often the guardians of tradition and habit and apologists for inertia, can actually do something different. It proves that we adults can actually think in different ways and ourselves learn in ways that are impactful to our work and have a lot of meaning on the learning experience for young people. And so I beg of you beg of you, keep bringing your expertise, keep bringing your talent to this enterprise, because we've got a way to go. And while we've achieved a lot of success, we can't be satisfied with where we are. Couple of things that we have to do, well, maybe more than a couple of things that we have to do. First of all, as the Rahn study will illustrate, we've got to crack the code on improving literacy outcomes in the summer. Jennifer will talk to you about the degree to which we didn't really see the kinds of results that we want to see on literacy, and certainly not the kinds of results we saw on math. We can do it. I think there's some complex things to understand about how you move literacy metrics and how that improvement happens, especially in the short window of time that we have in summer, but we can do it, so let's take that on. We've got to identify ways to more precisely measure and gauge summer learning loss, as I talked about a little while ago. We've got to continue to focus on and better understand the relationships between academic knowledge, skill building, and social emotional development. This is what we do in summer. This is the challenge that we've taken on. And while to some degree the school year has struggled with this a bit more, the R&D and the innovation has been happening in Boston since 2010. So let's figure out how we're going to more directly lead in getting to the kind of approaches that both align with the framework, but I think regardless of whether it's connected to Common Core or not, the summer community has always known greatly benefit students and position them for learning. So I just want to take this moment to claim, and you should too, that Boston is in the vanguard on summer learning. The success speaks for itself. The next challenges, though, are quite evident, and I hope that you will take the advantage of the rest of this day to gain a deeper understanding of where we stand, what that success looks like, to process the lessons and build on our success in ways that further push the boundaries on learning in Boston. Thank you for your time.